At least 3 mortars were fired from Gaza toward southern Israel on Thursday morning, some 2 hours after a temporary lull in hostilities went into effect to allow humanitarian supplies into the area. The mortars fell in open areas and no injuries were immediately reported, the Israeli military said. Mortars are smaller and have a more limited range than rockets. Israel, which said it would honor the ceasefire but not sit idle if attacked, did not immediately respond. The 5-hour-long temporary halt in fighting went into effect at 3 a.m. ET, requested by the United Nations to offer a brief respite in a conflict that has killed more than 220 people. Banks opened for the first time in 10 days in Gaza and residents poured into the streets. Red Cross officials visited hospitals and damaged houses to assess medical needs, and worked with local officials to quickly fix water pipelines, which has left hundreds of thousands without water. There were no reported airstrikes since the ceasefire began. Still, the fear of death hung heavily over Gaza. The health ministry warned civilians to avoid gathering in squares. Should the humanitarian window be exploited by Hamas or other terror organizations for the purpose of launching attacks against Israeli civilian or military targets, the IDF will respond firmly and decisively, the Israeli military said. Attack foiled shortly before the ceasefire's start. Hamas's military wing said it fired 5 rockets at the city of Beersheba. And the Israeli military said it foiled an attempt by 13 Hamas militants who tried to enter the southern Israeli community of Sufa through a tunnel. We were sitting at home while we heard the sounds of gunfire and bombardments from behind a house. Later on, all residents were informed that it was an infiltration attempt, said Eril Brandeis, the director of the Sufa kibbutz. Our community is now back to its routine. I think routine is the best way to keep your sanity. On Tuesday, an effort to permanently stop more than a week of killing stalled when Israel resumed airstrikes following a brief, one-sided ceasefire brokered by Egypt. While Israel paused for 6 hours, Hamas leaders rejected the deal and continued firing rockets. They said they had not been